Good day. Welcome to Orange County Talk Radio. Orange County Talk Radio produced by Sharc Creative. I'm John Marino. This is the Cup of Joe political show. We are made possible by Robeson Oil, the house that service built. By Michael Labriola, landscape design and construction of Armonk in Westchester. They work up and down the Hudson Valley. Also by Hightower, Westchester. They manage your wealth to a fiduciary standard right throughout the Hudson Valley. And by Jaguar Land Rover, located throughout the Hudson Valley. They begin and work their way up from Westchester, starting off in places like New Rochelle, White Plains, and Mount Kisco. Joined here by Steve Neuhaus, the Orange County Executive. Steve Neuhaus, you're in a bit of relaxed attire today. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I'm actually, I'm down in Little Creek, Virginia, where is this amphibious warfare base. I haven't been down here for a while. I was assigned to the Pacific Fleet in Europe, but I got promoted. I'm getting promoted in October to commander, and they have a senior officers course I got to do here for 3 or 4 days. But I feel like I'm back home. I actually love it down here, and it's great. I got to tell you, I couldn't be in a happier place in my life with the county, with my family, and with the military. And I'm in great spirits, and we'll talk about that later on because a lot of things have been going positive, especially back home.
And by the way, you promoted to commander in the U.S. Navy, so congratulations on that. Yep, we'll talk about what you've done over the past few months. Let's begin, though, with the economy, because that's all top of mind around the county and around the region. And everything seems to be collapsing right now, regionally and nationally, whether it's gas prices, food prices, supply chain shortages. And I ask people this, I hate to keep using these words, but what's going on here?
Yeah, so it's a great question, John. I just did a podcast. I usually do a podcast by myself. I started one a week ago where I'm going to do once a month with a special guest. Last week I had Gus Scacco, who's a big financial advisor. He's on Fox. He's on MSNBC. He's the Squawk Box, gives people advice on where the economy is. We had a great thing. It's on my podcast. If people have a half hour, they can watch another day. Here's where my take on it. People are worried about heading into a recession in the fall. I am too. Let me talk about quick positive, quick negative. The negative that I'm worried about is fuel prices, housing, heating prices for the fall. Those are the things that concern me. The price of food. And I worry about that because I worry about people sacrificing because of that. Maybe not buying what they need to sustain their family. Really starting to make sacrifices that impacts the quality of life or even the health of a family. What I am optimistic about is that every past recession we have had major inflation and also major unemployment. We don't have major unemployment. I'm looking at just over 3% in Orange County. So people are working. Are things, do we see an increase in prices and commodities and foods? Absolutely. Do I think help is on the way? I think the government's trying to reverse some of the problems. Some of the costs are due to self-inflicted positions that our government's done. Also, there's some outside factors. We have a war going on in Europe. There's some shortages around the world. All those things impact costs. But I am optimistic, but I am literally, what I'm doing, John, is I'm preparing my food banks to make sure that we have food to feed people every week. I'm also looking at ways of how we're going to deal with a major impact. We have HEAP. When people ask for assistance to buy home heating oil and so on and so forth, I am looking at padding that so I have the extra ability to help when I need to. And that's not only dollars, John, that's looking at supply chains for me to make sure that I have access to food to get to these folks that might need it in the fall and the winter as we start seeing more demand going up.
Mm-hmm. Now, with all this seemingly going downhill, but you're trying to get things going back uphill, through all of this, you've worked to keep development going in the county.
Absolutely. John, I got major projects expanding. So let's look at a couple of them. Woodbury Commons is nobody, and this has not been covered anywhere in the news. They did a press release on it, but a lot of media, as you and I, the media that you and I grew up with, as the obituary has been written, they've been buried. They don't pick this up. So I'll give you an example. Woodbury Commons is going to build 2 major hotels and add 180,000 square foot of retail shopping space. Not a lick about it in any of the newspapers. But we see major expansions going other places as well, not just warehouses, which are facilitating big logistics companies, but we're also seeing a lot of little mom and pops continuing to grow. They've recovered from the pressures for most of the part that came in from COVID and some of the struggles that came in associated with that. I'm also proposing to do a major ad campaign fall, winter, spring, and summer, targeting just small businesses and local town events like Apple Fest. Come up here and do your Christmas shopping. Come up here and do enjoy what we have to offer for the fall and the winter. So we're reinvesting the amount of money that's coming in here. We're bringing in $4 to $5 million a year on hotel motel. That's where we're tracking to go. 1 million of that comes from Legoland alone, just from the hotel there. So that's just telling you, despite the struggles that everybody's having, we are still a destination and people are still coming here to spend money.
Why are you able to do this where it seems like other locales not too far away say, well, we don't really have the money right now. Sorry, come back maybe next year?
So I believe in like the hotel motel taxes from people visiting my county to stay in our hotels and enjoy some of the beautiful stuff we have to offer, rather than just take that money and miser it and put it in a sock and hide it under my bed or use it for balancing a budget. I reinvest that in tourism, reinvested it in advertising campaigns, reinvested it in all sorts of ways to continue to welcome people to my county, sending my staff to tourism conventions so people have us on the map. Other counties, I'm not criticizing them, but they take their money and they may give it up to the first 200 people in a rebate. What happens to the other 4,000 people that could use that money or household? So I am very conservative. I am laser focused where I reinvest our money, our ARPA money, right? Let's just go transition to that real quick. Rather than use that and blow that on one-time gimmicks, ARPA is being paid by my kids and my grandkids, your grandkids. So why don't we reinvest it in something that's built to last, like the Grateful Dead song, Built to Last. So what am I doing with that? New roads, new parks, new playgrounds. Playgrounds are being redone that accommodate people maybe on the autism spectrum, maybe people that are handicapped that don't normally have access to those recreational activities. So that's what I'm putting my money in. I'm not putting in one-time gimmicks. I don't need a popularity contest. I just got reelected. I'm running again in 4 years from now, but that's still a long way down the road. My job is to be an operations officer for the taxpayers. They elected me to do it. I ran unopposed last time, and I am completely really at peace to do my job. So I'm not like, oh boy, I got to do this to score points here. Oh, I should do this to score points here. I'm looking at this money that the federal government borrowed long term to give to us to restart the economy. And I should be prudent with that money so that the people that are actually paying for it can enjoy it in the future.
Orange County Executive Steve Neuhaus here, Orange County Talk Radio. John Marino with you, Cup of Joe Political Show. Let's move to the governor's race. Kathy Hochul running for first-time election, of course, appointed a year ago when Andrew Cuomo stepped down, the Republican candidate, Long Island Congressman Lee Zeldin. Now, I'm not endorsing anyone either way. We don't do that on this program. However, the attack on Lee Zeldin a few days ago, seemingly by someone who has an issue that we've talked about before, mental health problems growing around the region and around the state. A former veteran seemingly attacked Lee Zeldin. Is this kind of an endorsement for Lee Zeldin in a way so that if you want to stop crime and you want to help those who maybe need mental health services, if you want to just do more select a candidate who wants to do more for society overall and really deal with some of the problems that it seems like Kathy Hochul has not dealt with, this is a campaign ad for Lee Zeldin right here.
I get along great with Kathy Hochul. I get along with Lee Zeldin. I have a long history with him. We had a Marine C-130 crash in Mississippi about 5 years ago. I think about 17 Marines died on it, many of them from my county. And I needed help to get their remains brought home in dignified remains being brought back. Lee Zeldin was the guy to help me. That's how I met this guy. Somebody hooked me up with this guy, say, hey, you're a military guy. This is a military guy. He can help you get through to the Pentagon. And he did. I think it's a clear-cut case of what you're saying. The policies of the current administration and the former administration, which she was part of, allow for a lot of these people that need help that should not be out on the street. I think, here's what I get worried about. And he was doing a rally in Orange County yesterday, and people asked me for talking points. I'm worried about a guy like that gets up on stage and says, I'm going to end you, or I'm going to end this. He's got a blade on him or whatever was on him, clearly needs help, clearly looked like a threat. I mean, he's wrestling with the damn governor candidate on the stage. And if the governor didn't have such great running mates that knew what they were doing to deal with this bus, and plus he did too as well, Lee.
Yeah, my first thought was it's great he's a military guy because he's able to defend himself, as you saw.
Yeah, but I get worried about you and your wife, or you and your kids, or me and my kids walking down the street, and this guy gets released within a half hour. He's still angry. He's still in danger. He still has problems that need to be worked out, and you just cut him loose. The bad effect, one of the negative effects of bail reform, and believe me, I'm a Johnny Cash guy. I am a forgiveness type of guy. I forgive people that do things to a level. The ISIS people we attacked and fought 3 years ago in Iraq, they deserved what they had coming to them. They were not rebuildable. They were bad dudes. But there's people that do minor things and have a bad time in their life that need forgiveness. But I think that when we had people locked up in my jail, for instance, we have 1,000-person jail. They were getting mental health treatment. They were getting drug treatment. They were getting counseling on jobs, counseling on maybe career changes in education. That's all gone now, with those people just being let out. And unless they have a safe place to get a second chance or a third chance, depending on how many times they've been in trouble, that's the problem with bail reform. They just cut loose. There's no checks and balances, and there's no follow-up on these for the most part. And that's why you see out of control crime. People asked me what to say at this rally yesterday because I wasn't going to be there. I'm like, just go through the last 48 hours of the 5 boroughs, murder, shootings, out of control. We need to reverse that. And I think people need to look and think about that when they go into the ballot box in November, and they'll know who stands on each side on this issue.
And one, I think, added issue here, gun control. How do we get guns off the streets of Newburgh or Middletown without actually cordoning off certain neighborhoods and saying, okay, if you want to come in, we search you, and if you got a gun, we take it away and we arrest you? Or you go house to house throughout Middletown, throughout Newburgh, throughout other areas of the county, and just look to see if people have illegal guns, which you cannot do. How do we stop this gun scourge? And Mayor Adams in New York City, of course, is among those at the forefront of trying to do this.
I think that it's a very complicated issue in this country. I am very concerned about active shooters. The district attorney, Dave Hoover, and I are very close. We talk about this. We've had now close to 150 active shooter incidents in this country since January. One of the most common denominators with them is no father figure at home. These individuals, everybody knows something about them. There's not been one that just came out of outer space, bought a couple assault rifles and killed somebody or did these horrible crimes. A lot of these people have mental health. They post horrible things on Facebook. Nobody wants to say anything about it. The families or friends enable them. I am very concerned. I think there's too many guns on the street to get it under control right now. And it's going to take a long time for a law enforcement officer to identify people that should not have them, in particular, illegally purchased or illegally got weapons. I think it's a very complicated issue, and I think that there is no solution right now. I don't think Washington or Albany have offered a lot of good solutions right now. I'll give you an example. Last Friday, I did a summit. All the school districts in my county, public and private, all the law enforcement members there, and they're concerned. They're concerned about the future of this country. They're concerned about, kids going back to school. I got 4 kids. They're in 3 different schools. I worry about them. I'm confident that our schools are doing their best, but we can always do more. I think this is going to be something, John, that is unfortunately going to be with us for at least the short term, until we really start taking mental health serious, until we really start enforcing. What's the damage? What's the punishment for you to get arrested tonight, John, having an illegal gun? You're going to be out tomorrow. There's no punishment. I believe in accountability. I told you I believe in forgiveness, but I also believe in accountability. And at the end of the day, my goal and my job is to protect the public. And if somebody's doing something bad, myself, law enforcement, and the district attorney's office needs to be provided with the tools to get these people off the street, to protect the public, and get those people the help they need.
First, there was Westchester County Airport, and former county executive, now former gubernatorial candidate Rob Astorino documented the flights of illegal immigrants coming into the Westchester County Airport beginning almost a year ago, last August, I guess. And now this seems to have fanned out onto the other side of the Hudson River, into Orange County. Stewart Airport in Newburgh seems to be the latest destination for those who cross the border illegally, scooped up by the Biden administration in South Texas or Arizona or New Mexico after they cross, put them on a plane and bring them to Newburgh. And this doesn't seem to work because we're getting overwhelmed throughout the tri-state area, in towns and cities, with those who come to Westchester, who come to Newburgh under the cover of darkness at night. And we see stories of help centers and homeless centers around the tri-state area now being overrun by those who came here basically without a plan.
So it's interesting. Right before I got mobilized in March of this year, when the Russians invaded Ukraine, and the last thing I did was I got on the phone with the governor's Hudson Valley representative. I said, look, I'm hearing rumors of these midnight planes coming in filled with illegal immigrants. If you're bringing them to my county, I want to know who they are and where they're coming from. And they said, absolutely, we'll let you know. Never heard anything back ever, even to this day. Nothing, zero. I am a child of two immigrant parents. My parents worked very hard. They came here with nothing. They have the American dream. 9 Nobel Peace winners last year from the United States. 8 of them were either immigrants or first-generation Americans. It's part of the fabric of this country. But the biggest fabric of this country is transparency and trust in our government. And if they said, hey, Steve, here's the deal. We got a bunch of kids. We're getting them green cards. We have this is where their end destination's going. They're going to be flying into Stewart. We'll show you all the nothing, zero. When you bring somebody in at 1 or 2 in the morning and don't tell the public what's going on, that's what's wrong with government.
And what's the point of them doing it like this? Why aren't they telling anyone about this?
I think
they're so much easier.
I think they're trying to keep it from the public. Otherwise, why wouldn't they tell you or I? I'm a pretty understanding guy and a likable guy. I don't try to break chops when I don't need to. And unfortunately, when they're doing stuff like this, now that airport, we have Con Air comes there with Supermax prisoners. It looks like the second Deadpool movie. Supermax, armored vehicles with bad criminals on there. And we know when they're coming, John. They let me know. No problem. U.S. Customs lets us know. The federal marshals lets us know. I have over 100 FBI agents right across the street from an airport. The problem is when these things come in the middle of the night and they're shuffled onto a bus, brought to God knows where. That's just tell us about it. Be honest with the public. I've been elected. I've been successful in government. And I think one of the most important things that I do and I try to do, I tell people how it is, whether it's good news or not. Here's what's going on. I wish I could tell you better news, but this is the facts. And there's not a question that you can ask me, John, or the average taxpayer that I wouldn't answer. And unfortunately, in this situation, the federal government couldn't be in the same boat as I am right now because they're withholding something from the public. And that's what's making this. That's part of one of the reasons, one of the big issues that's dividing this country today. They just don't trust each other.
Orange County Executive Steve Neuhaus here, Orange County Talk Radio, Cup of Joe political show. I'm John Marino, Steve Neuhaus. Here we are in the dead heat of summer, going through our first big heat wave of the summer of 22. We've had some pretty nice storms roll through the area too, and we have a good 2, maybe more months of this left to go. With climate change, we see our summers extending longer. Are we prepared for more of this? If we get inundated with heat wave after heat wave, storm after storm, what are we to do? Are we ready for this?
So unfortunately we are, because I've had to activate the emergency operations center last week because of the heat. And obviously we're just monitoring, making sure that cooling stations, which mostly are activated in the cities where you have these high populations, to allow people that maybe people in unfortunate situations to stay cool. But it is alarming. It's and I'm like, look, I'm a big environmentalist. I'm not some right-wing nut or some leftist nut. I'm a kind of moderate, average American. But I was with my brother-in-law this weekend, and we were talking. I've never been to Alaska, and he just came back from Alaska, and he said he was there 20 years ago, and he showed pictures of 20 years ago to today, glaciers that no longer exist anymore. Definitely something is changing. And we have a big farm in Chester. I have over 100 acres. I have beef cattle. I have honeybees. I raise trout in our trout ponds, and they're definitely more stressed. What does it mean, though, to the average Orange County resident, average New Yorker, or average American? Rolling blackouts because of heavy demands for utilities, high costs because of heavy demand for utilities. It also major preparedness. When you have more of these storms rolling through, they're doing damage to people's property. More importantly, we've had people die. We had a young child die a few years ago to get a tree crashed down on the car that she was in with her mom. These are going to continue to increase as you start seeing the climate change. So and that's why emergency management needs to be first and foremost, and alerting people when we start heading down these roads where we're going to have a 10-day period of excessive heat, or if we see some major storms rolling through, that you need to make sure you have a flashlight that works. You have water in a bottle so you can survive, 12 to 24 hours without power, without your well working. These are the type of things people need to be more cognizant of now as we head into these areas.
Do we miss Indian Point?
I miss Indian Point. You know why? So I go to Europe. The U.S. is the best country in the world. I'm not saying that because I'm wearing a military T-shirt right now. I'm on one of the best bases in the world with the best teams in the world. I'm saying it because I go to Europe, and who really helped the Ukrainians stay as a country? I boarded a plane. I got active duty orders, and they said, "Here's the deal, Commander Neuhaus. By the time you get to Europe, Ukraine won't exist. It'll be a puppet state of Russia. Your job and the rest of the other 100,000 American troops is protect Europe's eastern flank." That came from the chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff to us. Thankfully, the Ukraine government and the people fought back. They're still fighting today, but it was predominantly because of U.S. support. Why do I say that when you ask me about nuclear power? Because most of Europe is reliant on Russia for oil. Germany got rid of all their nuclear power plants. Now they're dependent. So they couldn't be as helpful as the U.S. Same thing in Italy, same thing in most of these countries. And now it's going to be a 5-year plan for them to wean off of Russian oil. The Russians really have them over a barrel. Why do I say that? France is still predominantly powered by nuclear power. Look, I don't like anything that's going to leave a carbon footprint or that's going to do damage to the environment. But you need to also be cognizant of what's the cleanest form of energy. Fossil fuels definitely isn't. And that's why we have problems here. And we have problems in this country. I'm not beating up Barack Obama by any means, but his administration pushed for natural gas. And you can't get any of these places approved, not even a compression station in New York State to run natural gas. And then at the same time, you shut down Indian Point. So we need to really come up with plans for alternative energy. During Hurricane Katrina, when we got wiped out in New York City, Indian Point provided a big chunk, and nuclear power provided a big chunk of energy in New York State. I'm not saying we should do one or the other, but you better get your act together and pick something that's going to be workable and sustainable. And the Europeans are learning that the hard way right now.
How well have the wind farms off Montauk worked out so far?
I can't answer that. I don't know. But, I hope they work, but I just don't think, we're in a great position in the world right now, in world history, as you see new technology making major improvements there. What does that mean? The batteries that are being developed now will allow us to save and harness that energy that's produced right now. Sunny day, I could open my sunroof. Beautiful sunny day here down in Virginia. Harness that energy with solar power and with the wind when you get to coastlines. The batteries are just as critical as the wind or the sun, the sunny days you have. So I think the best days are yet in front of us. We're not there, but I am optimistic about the future. But we do need to come up with a real sustainable energy plan for the future. And I think we could do that, John, and at the same time protect the environment.
Again, congratulations on your promotion to commander in the U.S. Navy. You're down in training in Virginia right now. And again, let's go back to your trip to Europe and the other places you've been stationed over the past few months, and part of our response to what's going on between Russia and Ukraine. What have you observed besides the energy situation?
Let me tell you some crazy stuff, John. This is going to blow your mind. So 2 weeks ago, I was in Pearl Harbor with the biggest naval exercise in American history. Just did a huge exercise in modern history, let's say the last 30 years. Let me tell you, so I am on the USS Arizona, sunk during the attack on December 7th, 1941. It led us to now get into not only the Pacific, but also the European War. While I'm on the deck of the Missouri, the battleship that the Japanese Empire surrendered on, the biggest fleet in the harbor of Pearl Harbor, besides the U.S., was the Japanese. The Japanese had a giant aircraft carrier they call a protection destroyer. It's an aircraft carrier. It's a flat top. It carries fighter planes or helicopters. It's an aircraft carrier. Very weird, John, right? 80 years ago, these guys were enemies. We pummeled them into oblivion. We used the only country in world history to use 2 nuclear bombs. We did on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Now, 80 years later, they have their ships in that port. Blows my mind. Let me bring it back to your generation and my generation. 50,000 Americans die plus, right, in the Vietnam War. Guess which Navy was with me 2 weeks ago in Pearl Harbor? The Vietnamese Navy against China, the Japanese Navy against China. So much stuff is changing in our world. And we need some really smart leaders to come up with diplomatic solutions. I don't want to fight any of these guys. I'd rather be home. I'm a lover, not a fighter. I want to be home with my family. I want to be home with my kids. I want to be enjoying a cocktail with my friends. I want to watch a concert in Orange County. But the world is a very changing place right now, and it could be a very dangerous place.
Speaking about the county and things going on around the county, here we are, midsummer 2022. We have one example, the annual Orange County Fair. And I'm going to preface this before your answer by saying maybe without the Orange County Fair, years ago, I may not be in the business I'm in, because when I first entered the business in 1979, my first job was at WTBQ Radio in Warwick, hired by the man who ran the Orange County Fair. At that time, he was the TBQ general manager also, the legendary John Zames, and I have to thank the memory of John Zames 43 years later for that.
I was on WTBQ Radio this morning. It's always a coincidence.
Frank Truett, right?
With Frank Truett, yeah. He's still rocking and rolling. He's actually does the rock show tonight, as a matter of fact, in the evenings. So the Orange County Fair is going on right now. It's still got another week left of it. It still has all sorts of cool stuff. And they actually have a lot of tribute music. Like they had an AC/DC one last week, Guns N' Roses. Some of those tribute bands, and believe me, I'm a huge music fan. I love it. I saw John Fogerty last year. He sounds great. Vince Neil from Motley Crue. I saw him 2 years ago at Orange County Fair. He looks like a little older, but he sounds great. But they have a lot of great stuff they're rolling through with the fairgrounds. I encourage people to check it out with their family. Then we get done with the fair. This Friday, I have a big fireworks show at the Thomas Bull Park that we do a tribute to military. And then in a couple weeks after that, I got the air show coming back with the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds. Just one thing after another. Bethel Woods, which is not in Orange County, but just north of us, great concerts this year. I saw The Who, John. They sound great. Yeah, they're a little older. Yeah, they're not going to run a marathon with you and I, but they sound awesome.
Also, too, the County Freedom Fest.
Absolutely. That's the fireworks fest this Friday. So we're pumped about it. I'm definitely going to be back for that. And I honestly couldn't ask for a better time. You know, look, there's challenges. I had one of my highway workers was badly injured in an accident last week. They thought he wasn't going to make it. Very emotional. I'm at his bedside in bad shape. An hour after the bad accident, his wife's holding his hand. I'm holding his wife. He's made a full recovery. Well, he will make a full recovery. He's not going to win a beauty pageant, as I say, in the near future, but he's alive. He will be home Labor Day and Thanksgiving and Christmas with his family. So, look, I've seen some tough times over the last 6 months, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of suffering, but I'm in a good spot right now, and my county's in a good spot, and I'm going to continue to work hard and fight for them. And
we need one more tribute to Jimmy Sturr.
Yeah, absolutely. The Polka King. Most Grammys still, I think, for the most part, right?
Yeah.
Definitely for the Polka category.
Yeah. Matter of fact, he owned WTBQ when I got hired, so it was he and John Zames that got me into the business all those years ago.
That's great.
That's
wonderful.
How's my old pal Gussie Kusher over?
Good. You know, it's funny. I saw him 2 weeks ago. Actually, not 2 weeks ago. I saw him last Thursday at a dinner at the great restaurant in Warwick called Chateau Hawthorne.
Yeah. Yep. Glad to see Gus still. I know he's going at it with Jimmy. They're on the road all the time whenever the situation allows, and we're seemingly mostly back to normal everywhere. And quite a legend. Jimmy Sturr band his childhood pal Gus Kusher. They put it together when they were about 15 years ago, a few years back, and who knows how many more Grammys they might still win.
Absolutely. A lot to be proud of, a lot of great people from the county, and a lot of people doing good things. I mean, I think 5 young men get picked up by the major leagues this week.
Wow.
5. Yeah, in draft picks.
In the draft. Yeah.
Yep. I don't know if you watch it. I'm not a huge sports guy. You can tell that. I'm not a sex symbol. And I can't tell you stats on baseball and basketball or football. I like enjoying a good game. That's it. I want a good concert. I want a good game. And I'm very flexible with my genre for music. Also flexible with watching athletes. But there's a great show. I was at the airport in Honolulu about 2 weeks ago, and I saw as I'm drinking a beer and having a dinner before I'm getting on the plane to fly back East Coast, and they had a thing like, stay tuned for The Captain. It's coming out. So ESPN is doing this series. It's called The Captain. It's on Derek Jeter. What a great story. His dad's black. His mom's white. Interracial marriage in the 70s. Not a very popular time to do that. They met in the army in Germany. They raised 2 kids under all different challenges, but kept pushing their kids. His dad was relentless on him. His dad loved beating him in sports, saying, you lost. Not the dad that's going to let him, hey, my leg hurts. You won this one. Just continue to drive his kids to be successful. And as a guy that has the ethos of never quitting, never backing down, and even if the guy is tougher than me, I'll fight him. I might not win. It might not look pretty. But that's the type of American story we need to tell these kids today. Not that they can just give it a shot and you might lose. How about give it a shot and try until you win?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of like what my father did to me, especially on the basketball court when I was 16. He said, come on, hot shot, couple of shots. I said, foul. He said, when you do it to somebody else, it's not a foul, right? So no foul here. And then after it, he said, I'll see you here next Saturday morning. Same time, same place. I said, I think I have to study for a test that following Monday. So we never played again. But that's the way he was. And I always respected that whatever the sport, whether it be baseball, softball, football, basketball, even street hockey, he'd get out there and show me that, you know what, I can't just let you win. that you got to go out there, you got to earn it. And that was the Derek Jeter's story and the story for so many other kids, regardless of level in this country, who aspire to be some kind of an athlete. And you have to learn along the way that, and I think that's part of great parenting too. Like you pointed out, that you just can't let your kids win. You've got to just let them experience it for themselves and maybe learn how to win on their own.
I learned the most by failing. I've learned the most about love by getting my heart broken. Like everybody else, you have to have it done. It sucks. None of this is enjoyable. It's great to always be sunny and have a great day. But you learn the most in the most challenging times. And I got to tell you, the gift that I get, John, from America is I get to go all over the world, mostly crappy places. I hate to say that on your radio show. Iraq is not a place to go on vacation. Hopefully one day it does. I talk to some of the Iraqis I work with still, but not a place you want to go. But I appreciate this country so much more. And I just told you, I came back from a multinational exercise. And this is a striking thing. I had a British officer tell me, America is the only and best choice and both best chance for democracy in the world. Now, he's coming from another democracy, and he's telling me that our country, my country, is the best chance for democracy in the world. Fascinating statements, powerful statements. And I could go on and on about the experiences I see with these people. And that's when I come back here, I'm like the guy from Office Space. I'm like, nothing bothers me. Oh, a bad challenge. Oh, we got this crisis going. All right, bring it. Let's go.
Steve Neuhaus, Orange County Executive, we thank you for joining us again for a return visit on Orange County Talk Radio again. And where do you go from here? You come back home in a few days, I guess?
I'll be home in a couple of days. We got a lot of work to do. I've been doing these Zooms all day. The military is very flexible with me. The taxpayers are very flexible with me back home. Challenging times. They allow me to do what I need to do. And I am so excited and so optimistic. I'm always happy to be with you. And by the way, you said a cup of Joe. I do have my cup of Joe with me. And I'm really appreciative of the chance to be able to talk to you. You know, I love just sitting back. It's like you and I are sitting on the front porch.
Right. Yeah. Yep. And let's get to do it. I hope we get to do it again real soon. Thank you.
You got it, brother. Thank you for allowing me on with you.
And again, our thanks to Orange County Executive Steve Neuhaus. We are Orange County Talk Radio, produced by Sharc Creative. Cup of Joe Political Show. I'm John Marino, and we are made possible by Robeson Oil, the house that Service built, by Michael Labriola, landscape design and construction of Armonk in Westchester. They work up and down the Hudson Valley. By Hightower Westchester, managing your wealth to a fiduciary standard right throughout the Hudson Valley and beyond. And by Jaguar Land Rover, all throughout the Hudson Valley. They begin their trek from the Bronx line all the way up through Albany in places like New Rochelle, White Plains, and Mount Kisco. Catch all of our Orange, Dutchess, Westchester, Rockland, Putnam, and Fairfield County Talk Radio programming on our YouTube channel, Sharc Creative YouTube, and now we're on Apple Podcasts, too.